Hello, family and friends. Today's teaching is on the gifts of the spirits. 1 Corinthians 12, verse 7 through 11 in the NIV read, "There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different kinds of services, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but the same God works all of them in all men. Now, to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. To one, there is given through the Spirit the message of wisdom, to another, the message of knowledge, by the means of the same Spirit, to another, faith, by the same Spirit, to another, the gifts of healing, by that one Spirit, to another, miraculous power, to another, prophecy, to another, distinguishing between spirits, to another, speaking in different kinds of tongues, and to still another, the interpretation of tongues. All these are the work of one and the same Spirit, and He gives them to each one just as He determines." I did read verses 4 through 6. Romans 12:3 in the New King James reads, "Every believer has the measure of faith." And Sunday, I taught on little faith, great faith, and increasing faith. And I pray that your faith continues to increase. The measure of faith is different from the gift of faith. The gift of faith is a special faith that is supernaturally achieved. What is impossible? There is no human strength or power involved because it's the Holy Spirit that lives inside of you. 1 John 4:4, "Greater is He that's inside of me than he that's in the world." Okay, God's great power was demonstrated when the Red Sea divided. Moses had the gift of faith. Exodus 14, it's going to be 5, 10, 17, 21, 22, 26, 30 in the New King James. So, Exodus 14:5. "Now it was told the king of Egypt that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turning against the people. And they said, 'Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us?'" Verse 10. "And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptian marched after them. So they were afraid. And the children of Israel cried out to the Lord." Verse 17. "And I indeed will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. So I will gain honor over Pharaoh, and over all his armies and chariots and his horsemen." 21. "Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left." 26. "Then the Lord said to Moses, 'Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians on their chariots and on their horsemen.' 30. So the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hands of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Though Israel saw the great work which the Lord had done in Egypt, so the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses." That's the power of God. Can you just Now, I believe that. I really truly believe that the Holy Spirit did that and God did that. The great power of God was demonstrated when, whoop, already did that one. The gift of faith was in action when Daniel got placed in the den of the lion. Daniel 6, verses 13, 15b, and 20. I guess I'll share the verses as I read them so I can capture more time. Okay. Verse 10. Remember, this is on the gifts of faith. Verse 10 reads, Now, when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room, with his window open towards Jerusalem, he kneeled down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gives thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before God. And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree. Have you not signed a decree that every man who petition any god or man within 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? And then 12a reads, 12a. Yeah, that was part 12a. And then verse 16 reads, So the king gave the commandment, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lakes. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you. Then a stone, nope, not verse 17, 20b through 28. 20, part B, verses through 28. The king spoke, saying to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve, been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angels and shut the lion's mouth, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him, and also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. Now the king was exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take David up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injured whatever was found on him, because he believed in his God, and his name is Jehovah. And the king gave the commandment, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions. Them, their children, and their wives, and the lions overpowered them and broke their bones in pieces. They ever came to the bottom of the den, before they came to the bottom of the den, the king Darius wrote to all people, nations, and language that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I made a decree that in every dimension of my kingdom, men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is a living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues. Yes, he does. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders. Yes, he does, in heaven and on earth. Who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions? So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and his reign of Cyrus and the Persian. And then the three Hebrews men had the gift of faith that God would deliver them from the burning, firing furnace. Daniel 3 verses 13. I saw a vision of my head while on bed, and there was a watcher, a holy one, coming down from heaven. He cried out, Daniel 3, wrong verse. Daniel 3, verse 13. Now, Nebuchadnezzar is in rage and fury, gave the commandment to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought these men before the king. And then verse 15. But if you are ready at the time you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, and the psalm psalter, and the Safino, I can't pronounce that, with all the kinds of music, and you fall down and worship the image which I have made good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fire and furnace. And who is the God who may deliver you from the enemies? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you on this matter. If that is the case, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fire and furnace, and he will deliver us from your hands, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your God, nor we worship the gold image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expression on his face changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that the heat of the furnace, the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. And he commanded certain men of valor who were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fire and furnace. And then 24. Then Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselor, Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said to the king, True, O king. Look, he answered, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire. And God is with us all when we go through the fire, but we won't get burnt. And they are not hurt, and form of the 4th is like the Son of God. And then 27b through 30 reads, The fire had no power, the fire had no power, the hair of their head was not singed, nor were their garments affected, and the smell of the fire was not on them. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angels and delivered his servants who trusted in him, and they have frustrated the king's word and yield their bodies, that they should not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make a decree that any people, nation, or language which speaks against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut into pieces, and their houses shall be make a ash heap, because there is no other God. Let's read that again. There is no other God who has delivered like this. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the provision of Babylon. And I pray that God stirs up the gifts in you. God bless you. You have a peaceful day. May your faith increase.